If you know anything about this channel, you'll know I love horror games. Along with this, I also happen to love many weird, unconventional, and downright whimsical games. Unfortunately for me, it's very rare that I find a game that sates both my interest in horror and a weird and colorful world. Well, that wasn't until I discovered a little indie game that had just been released. The topic of today's video, of course, Endacopia. Endacopia is certainly a strange little game, as it manages to perfectly balance having some genuinely terrifying and unsettling moments, along with a fascinatingly weird world. There's almost always an ominous undercurrent, but it doesn't take away from the experience in the slightest, and honestly further bolsters how good it is. Before we begin, I'd implore you to play Endacopia, as there will be major spoilers in this video, as this game is a genuine masterpiece. The beginning of the game encapsulates pretty much everything I've talked about very well, as you're thrust into a world with no guidance, only the knowledge that this kid's name is Mello, and you're his guardian angel who will be guiding him. If you notice, everything is super bright and happy in this room. But there's also a dark undertone. Mello here is just entirely alone, there's no door, and there's just a vent that's entirely closed. Oh, also, the clock has a face on it, very normal. It all feels relatively innocent on the surface and is still whimsical by nature, but there's something off about it. This is just about the tone of the entire game, although it does do a bit of flip-flopping intermittently. There's for sure more whimsical aspects than horror in the opening area though, as here you use the computer to make a door appear, meet your companion named Tip, and then crawl through a vent to meet Henry, our very whimsical homeowner. Well, I'm not sure how whimsical he is, more like an abomination, but same difference. Upon crawling back up the aforementioned vent, this happens. These type of intense moments are always enjoyable because they function to release tension in the same way jump scares do, whilst not just being loud sounds that make you jump. They're just a bit of a spook that adds to the eeriness of the world as a whole. Once you leave this vent area, you'll finally complete the room puzzle and head into the bathroom, leading to the first encounter with this entity, known as the Parasite. Wait, before that, I almost forgot. This game has combat, and it's actually really good. Essentially, you're in a first-person fistfight with 3 possible positions, left, right, and middle. You can punch or block in each of these directions to fend off the foe in front of you, but you must also be wary of your energy meter, as that lowers every time you punch and cannot be replenished while blocking, making for a simple system with a lot of complex possibilities. After that, you actually go to the Parasite, which I love as encounter because, first of all, how the plunger is used is just so goofy and one of those small little touches you don't really appreciate till it's not in a game. And second of all, this guy never feels trustworthy, but also he doesn't seem straight up malicious. Oh, also he kinda looks like Gaster. Red Gaster theory? Holy crap. This comes together to make an interestingly mysterious character, especially when he asks if you want to go on an adventure. If you've already picked up the code from earlier, you can enter that and are pulled into the toilet. Wait a second. The toilet realm from Juice Galaxy? Red Gaster Swirly D of the Toilet Realm confirmed? Once you get pulled down the pipes though, the game truly begins and you begin to witness the real horrors that reside there. But before we get into that, please subscribe as I'm currently trying to hit 3K before September 30th, my channel's 2nd anniversary. Along with that, feel free to comment below any feedback you have, as this style is very new to me as a whole. Now back to Endacopia. Endacopia is split up into 3 chapters, each one correlating to one of 3 areas: Timesville, The Office, and Misery Town. The order in which you go into these isn't important, but in the beginning of the game you must enter all of them as you lose your limbs, being incapable of seeing, touching things, and straight up have no mouth and must scream. You can't speak anymore. Way to add some very subtle body horror. This is only further accentuated with scenes like this. Which is both a really cool showcase of mixed media and also just horrifying. Although I did say the game gets more horrifying at this point, it's by no means purely a horror game. There's of course whimsical parts. Like, there's literally a scene where you're riding on a unicycle zipline over a bottomless pit, don't question it, an entire musical sequence starts. Man, I just love this game, it's so unabashedly weird. The stuff I just mentioned are all from just one of the 3 sections as well, and not even the biggest one, so there is a ton more of this type of content throughout the entirety of the game. Of all of the sections in the game though, I believe one of them has the best balance of both whimsy and horror, integrating them together very well. That's Misery Town Circus. The name itself is a kind of oxymoron, of course, and that alone kind of explains the vibe of this area. It's a bright and colorful circus, but also this happens, and also this. Well, at the same time, your main goal is to get these 2 booth workers dating and together. It's great. Everything about it is so wonderfully strange and kinda terrifying at the same time. It's quite impressive, honestly, as the only game I've seen do tonal whiplash this well is, like, Deltarune. And comparing anything to Deltarune is really a compliment because of how phenomenal that game is. Although I do actually think Endacopia does have better puzzles than Deltarune. Speaking of puzzles, my favorite one in the entire game actually resides here. That being the theater puzzle. In this area, you watch a series of 8 different videos, each talking about a different clown character. It's very whimsical, but also like, half of them die in said music videos, so also horrifying. This actually does contribute to something though, as there's a puzzle in the next area where you've got a whack-a-mole machine with a set amount of clowns and have to hit the clowns 3 times to turn them into graves. This correlates with the theater, as there are 8 chairs in a certain order just like there are 8 clowns. Complete that, and you get a scalpel, which you must then use to do an operation on this patient clown to get a ball out of him. I'm not sure how whimsical that is, but okay. You also later on have to do this little mime maze, which I never have been able to solve in any of my runs. I think there's a pattern, but I genuinely just ran until I hit an invisible wall and finally beat it. Also, this isn't later on, this is the first thing you do, I don't know why I said that, this is just important to note, okay, yeah. Upon doing a few more puzzles, it's finally the end of this area, and you're about to fight the boss. But first, if you backtrack to the room where the patient resides, you're faced with a surgeon, a mysterious stranger who always sings a banger song when you meet him, and will appear before a boss in each area. After listening to him, or even if you listen to him, it is optional, you'll then be faced with a trapezist, the boss of the Misery Circus. She actually has a really fun gimmick because instead of punching her like normal, you must instead hit these balls that she throws at you to hit her back. And you've got to be pretty precise with the timing. It's a fun gimmick, but if I did have to give one criticism, it is that it feels relatively unclear. I genuinely thought she was unbeatable for like 10 different rounds because I just got beat up by her, until I realized punching the balls was the goal. But maybe that was just me being stupid, you never know. This further expands the combat system a lot, as it was already fun and is only made more interesting with boss gimmicks, as they're just generally pretty well balanced and cool. Speaking of balance, I should probably talk about the office, namely the main area, the money room. The office area has a primary gimmick built around money that you get via working, doing stuff in this weird workout room, or like gambling. Yes, this game has gambling, and yes, that makes it 1,000 times better. The use for the aforementioned money is to be able to go through these rooms and buy all the stuff from the vending machine. Not much, but still necessary to get through some of the area, especially with how many times you go in and out of it. And honestly, despite the gimmick being fun conceptually and in-universe, it's kinda just tedious for the most part. It usually comes down to spamming the spacebar on this timing minigame, either that or correctly doing your job. Right, you can get a job in this area. It's basically the main quest, as you must use the items you get from the vending machines to help each of the workers with their specific problem, and make everyone more efficient. Also, yes, one of the necessary items is obtained by gambling, either that or pressing a stray pixel on the screen for some reason. Don't ask. You also have a little minigame where you do work yourself. You have to call in to people, and you basically help them with their specific problem. If you win though, you get a bunch of extra money, which is like the main reason to earn it, but in every single run that I've done, that has not happened, and I've got most of my money from the workout room. The final item you have to get from this area is a key. To get that key, you've got to water a flower and take it to the founder of the company, who is encased in concrete. That's slightly morbid, not sure how much whimsy's in that, but we're good, we're okay, we're fine, it's just concrete man. You can also see the surgeon once again, as he has yet another song. Aside from that, most of this area is relatively chill, but it really does start to ramp up once you open the door and are faced with the computer, a horrifying flesh abomination creature that is an artificial copy of the founder that fused with an evil AI and is trying to, well, I'm not exactly sure what it's trying to do, but I assume something bad since it immediately attacks you. This fight also has a fun gimmick where you must destroy these weird flesh mouths or else they'll become faces and aggressively headbutt you. This is truly beautiful, so majestical as the physical embodiment of a taco would probably say. I wouldn't say this is particularly whimsical, but it for sure is horrifying and a bit weird. I mean, it is a living meat computer. This also really begins to clue you in that something isn't right here from a fundamental level. Of course stuff has been off before, but a living meat computer has to be the tipping point, right? This leads us to the final, biggest, and most horror-focused area of the game, Timesville. Just by the way though, you don't actually have to play the areas in this order, it's just the one I chose arbitrarily. I'm not entirely sure how to introduce Timesville, so I'll just dive straight in. Timesville is fundamentally about a murder mystery. There's a killer on the loose and you must figure out what's going on and how to stop him, all the while solving puzzles that are linked to a time system, which is a gimmick where every time you enter a building, you move time forward at one of 6 times of day/night. This makes for interesting and strange puzzle design while still incorporating horror elements, namely during the said nighttime. A lot of this area comes down to an elaborate fetch quest, but it's not like an RPG fetch quest, it's a really fun one, especially because of how it begins. The first thing you'll have to do is interact with this guy known as Cathew and play hide and seek. Upon the 3rd time finding him, over in the graveyard, this happens. And no, that is never elaborated upon, it's just there. It's things like that that add to the eeriness of the world and get you asking questions like, what is that thing? Why are there monsters here? Just leading you to question what's really going on here. Once it becomes night again, a bridge appears where there wasn't one before. If you cross said bridge and enter this home, you step into the past. This gives you a bit of backstory on Arthur, a character you never actually meet, and his premature demise at the hands of a mysterious dark entity known as the Chameleon. Upon completing that room, you're now going to be chased by the Chameleon at night, adding up a lot of tension to the game. Whilst this definitely is the longest section of the game, there's only a couple of truly standout sections horror-wise. Like when you break into this prison, speak to the crazy turtle man, and then leave and this happens. This once again unlocks the surgeon song, and if you go to the graveyard you can hear yet another banger. There's also one small puzzle I didn't mention where you basically have to line up this really weird room in a certain way to make the room adjacent to it be in another way that you see in a picture. It's kind of confusing and difficult, but it will be important for later. There's one other horror scene as well, which is incredibly strange and is at the end of the Timesville section, as you've got to watch this film to figure out a puzzle that allows you to break into the Chameleon's secret base behind the waterfall. This short film chronicles how the Chameleon was in a coma on life support and went entirely brain dead, so of course his friends pulled the plug on him. He then woke up inside of his grave and vowed revenge on them. This is how you figure out his name is Ozzy, which is on the grave itself. That's also kind of how he got the puppets used in the film. Definitely one of the most unsettling implications in the game, as after this, you fight the puppet in an intense battle before finally defeating him. This marks the end of the last section, but based on the video link that's left, clearly there's something I've left out. This something is incredibly important to the game, the house return sections. You see, between each boss fight and area done, you're actually sent up back to the house you started in from a different perspective, exploring it in that perspective and finding yet another item for the parasite. In your first return, you must obtain a map. This is done by traveling into a dark tunnel, grabbing these pieces of paper, ignoring this totally not important writing on the wall, and then using the paper as reference to just create new life, and have that life write down the map for you. This isn't really a horror section, but it does have a bit of scares, like how a shadow creature just straight up murks you if you don't use the flashlight. Very fun. As a whole though, this is the most uninteresting of the returns, the next one is far more fascinating. The second return has you getting a saw for the parasite. Certainly weird, but okay. There's also this note, but we can just ignore that. This one starts out simple, as we gotta just climb up here and create an elaborate structure of toys to hit a target. But once you get up the ladder, a code is necessary. This is when it gets real, as you return to the room and Mello asks his reflection to walk away, allowing you to just enter the mirror. This can lead into an encounter with Roger, who is absolutely terrifying and like your strange evil clone. You can also just entirely skip the fight if you'd like though, as if you keep walking, you'll fall into a trapdoor, finding Henry again as he now gives you access to his computer profile and you can find the code in there. This is definitely a great area of the games that has both the great horror and the great whimsy, along with obviously fantastic puzzle design. I really like the puzzle in the room where you have to get the ball to the end. This area also presents you with a choice once you open the saw box. Give the parasite the toy saw or the real one. I wonder which one's the correct decision. If you give him the fake saw, as I did in my first playthrough, upon beating the final section, you return up and the parasite scolds you, telling you that this is a sinking ship and you ruined his plans, dooming him. This leads you into the final section, as you pass a series of doors and finally, the end. But then you keep walking, and there's just a cliff. Mello can't leave. He isn't tall enough. And so Tip, your companion throughout most of the game that I just didn't mention for time's sake, makes the ultimate sacrifice and allows you to climb up on top of him, as he's not capable of going past this area. And so Mello complies, and you finally leave the world of Endacopia. Remember that paper I talked about when talking about the first return? Yeah, that's probably important now, as a shocking revelation hits you once you reach this area. Endacopia, the entire game, was taking place inside of this living, breathing eldritch god, only known as the Beast. Everything now makes sense. What the parasite was doing, why he's so mad, and why everything was so off. Upon coming to this revelation, you're faced with the boss, Henry. He doesn't want to let you leave, and as such fights you. In this fight, you must have him repeatedly hit the creature's uvula, leading to him literally spitting out all of the characters from throughout the game, saving everyone, and leading to Ending A, titled Home, where, you're just sitting there, roasting marshmallows over a fire with all your friends. It's a really nice ending and feels like an amazing way to end out such a beautifully weird game. But what if you gave him the real Saw? That leads to Ending B, the one where the parasite does indeed escape the Beast, kill Henry on his way out, and leaves you alone, entirely on your own to wander the desert. Once you return to the house that Ending A takes place in, you'll find the parasite, sitting alone. No bright lights or happy people like the previous one. This time it doesn't end here though. Upon going past this home, you'll find a new one. Mello's, no, Roger's house. Despite giving himself the name Mello, Roger was actually just a kid who fell out of a truck and ended up inside that beast somehow, assumedly because of Henry. He was originally a member of this very clearly broken family, and as you interact with them, you realize why he wasn't trying to come back. Upon getting yelled at by his mom, Mello walks upstairs and sees his sister, telling her about the story of Endacopia. Thus, you get Ending B, titled Family? These two endings are the primary endings of the game that you can get normally, but despite that, they aren't the only ones. There's an ending you can only get by doing a very specific set of things in a certain order. One stranger and far more terrifying than the rest of the game. Ending C. Ending C is a conundrum, as you must first complete every section all the way to the boss area, but not fight them as to not lead into the next chapter. You must then do a series of convoluted tasks that lead to some interesting results. The first of these tasks takes place inside of the office, where you must use the telescope to find someone's phone number, enter it into your desk phone, and are given Morse code. This Morse code tells you, behind the stairs, wait a minute. And once you do that, you're sent here, a strange place near the entity's kidney. It would seem your contact wants something from you and makes you do these puzzles to that end. Upon completing this series of puzzles, your contact reveals that you're currently trying to heal the beast. hopefully leading to the happiest ending where everyone's just fine. After that explanation, this happens.
Come to me.
Come to me.
Come to me.
Oh wow. That was slightly horrifying.
And you're now back where you started, with nothing but a deeply unsettling feeling. This leads into the second task, which takes place in Misery Town. To do this one, you must use the metal detector you got in Timesville to find a remote which allows you to set the projector screen to this image. You then have to return to the mine maze, but this time it's just a grid pattern. If you successfully follow the exact path that the map outlines, you'll end up here. A weird, warped version of the Whack-A-Clown room, where you've gotta glitch yourself into a wall before the game turns light and Mellow gains a halo? I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what's even going on anymore, but after walking out of the room, you see this place with meat capsules in it. You've got to do another operation-style puzzle like you did on the clown earlier for each of the capsules, which reveals that the cages are meant to hold the clowns that survived from the theater music videos. Upon completion of said puzzles, you get this cutscene.
That's what was that?
It's now clear that whatever you're doing is clearly to further the goal of reviving the entity, which I assume is a good thing, right? Because you're gonna save everyone in there, right? That brings me to our final secret, the one in Timesville. As with everything else in this area, Timesville has by far the longest secret, needing you to catch every fish in the area before getting a key that allows you to go into this puzzle room that I mentioned before, where you must literally bring your game into windowed mode to make a lock appear, allowing you to open yet another window to the past. This time literally. This one is a bit more ominous than the last one, as you're now on the perspective of a butterfly, as you'll learn how each of the residents were killed by the chameleon, until finally going to the graveyard and doing these weird brain puzzles where you've got to match memories, presumably showing how the chameleon survived. I'm not exactly sure. That finally marks the end of the secrets, and you can now go through each boss to return to the last area in the game. Assuming you gave the parasite the toy saw, once you enter your room, Clocky will once again be there in an insanely hard fight. Easily the most difficult in the game, but also quite rewarding once you complete it. This takes you to the end of the game as you crawl through strange meat tunnels and eventually make it into this room, where you find a book. A paper talking about an endoscopy. As Mello says Endacopia, the surgeon walks into the room. He tells you to ask him anything. I mean, he'll answer any questions you might have. There's a lot of lore relevant stuff here, but I've mostly already stuck that info to the video, like the chameleon's vague backstory, which is fully explained here, some of the names like the parasite, and a couple of other things, so I'll just skip to after the questions. This finally leads into this cutscene, which I'll just show in full. Wow. Just wow. Endacopia really is a magnificently weird and horrifying game, with surprisingly deep lore that we still have yet to entirely parse, like, what even is the beast? It's some sort of humanoid, but clearly it isn't human based on this paper. We also don't know much about the surgeon, what Henry is, or even who we are entirely. It seems implied that the player is essentially the endoscopy camera, hence the name Endacopia, but even that could instead be the parasite. I'm not quite sure. But it is called the parasite, so it's probably just an actual parasite. What I am sure of is that I absolutely love this game and the world it presents. I am super excited to see what Andyland does in the future because this is an insanely good introduction as his first major solo project. He did work on Picayune Dreams, but I'm pretty sure that had a team behind it, don't quote me. I hope you guys enjoyed as this is a very new format to me, and I'm not sure how good it really is, as a lot of it is recapping the game with my thoughts on certain areas, and I'm not sure if that video style really works. Like, I've seen it done before, I'm just not super confident in my writing. Also, comment beatboxing puppy if you got this far, okay? That's how I know you're a real one. This video has already gone on for far longer than I anticipated, so if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and join my Discord.